Yeah, baby. It's time. What's up, guys? I got the pencil here, and let's talk about my main man, Roxas. Now, if y'all remember that Odyssey I dropped a while back, like a while back, ranking all the Kingdom Hearts characters at once, just as characters, y'all saw I put Roxas in number one. And that's for good reason, because I believe Roxas is fantastic. Now, here's the thing. Roxas is what you would call a dark mirror to the protagonist. Now, the thing is, I've seen a lot of dark mirrors to protagonists. I've seen my Vegetas. I've seen my Sasuke's. I've seen my Shadow the Hedgehogs. I've seen a lot of dark mirrors to my protagonists. But here's the thing. What I like so much about Roxas is that, as a fact, the moment we saw him, he was not a dark mirror. In fact, he was just like Sora, to a degree that we didn't even understand up until that point. So here's the thing. Let's just get right into it. The reason I love Roxas so much is because we actually see the legitimate progression from we see Roxas from birth till death, and it's the most amazing birth till death to rebirth. That is such wow, that's solid storytelling. Okay. So the initial introduction to Roxas, Kingdom Hearts 2. We had no idea what Roxas was at all. Because this is before nobody's were even explained to us. By the time the original Kingdom Hearts 2 came out, we all started out with that Twilight Town story. You know, we were like, who's this? Who's Roxas? What's going on? And if you didn't play Chain of Memories, you're wondering where the heck Sora is. But all that time, Roxas is just he's just a kid for the most part. He's just a teenager trying to live his best life with his best friends, you know, enjoying himself. Just like Sora did on Destiny Islands with his friends. But the thing is, we go through that entire story and we don't see Roxas as like a villain. We don't see Roxas as anything. But as we progress through that story alone, that like 3-hour section, bit by bit, we're getting more and more of Roxas, who Roxas really is. We see that something's wrong. Everything's wrong with the world around him. This isn't real. And we slowly see Roxas break down from that. Almost like he's reawakening some trauma of some sort, of something else not being real. And he goes bit by bit. And bit by bit, and then we see his interactions with Axel, someone who claims to know him from a previous life. All these weird creatures that we don't understand yet are calling him my liege. They're calling him their king, something like that. What's going on? And then we're in the same position Roxas is. We're asking so many questions. What in the world is going on? And regardless of all that, we get to the end and we see something we have never seen in the series up to that point, except for the secret ending cutscene from Kingdom Hearts 1. We see someone wielding 2 Keyblades. And while the scene is played up as a joke so much nowadays, when Axel says 2, you as the player had the exact same reaction. 2 Keyblades? What the heck is going on? You see Roxas as this much angrier person by the end of the narrative, and you're wondering, where did all this come from? What's happening? And as you can see, Roxas is slowly getting himself back, remembering everything. And bit by bit, you just see it go so on and so forth. And then you see him fall to the dark mirror of the protagonist. He went from the light, fell all the way down to the darkness, only to give back into the light when he lets himself get consumed by Sora. And then Roxas is gone. He's gone all the way to the end of the game. He's referenced in between and throughout. Sora remembers him because that's part of him now. Roxas is some part of Sora. But the amazing thing is, we don't really get Roxas the character himself. We get the idea of Roxas. Then we pull all the way up to the world that never was. And I'll admit, I like the Final Mix version a whole lot more because we actually get to fight Roxas. But the thing is, once again, we see those 2 Keyblades. We know who this is. We know exactly who this is. In fact, Roxas is nobody themselves pull up and stop Donald and Goofy from interfering. So Roxas pulls up, fights Sora, and it's one of the best battles, in my opinion, hands down one of the best boss fights in the entire series. In the regular version and the data version, both fantastic boss fights. And afterwards, we see Roxas say, "You make a good other." And you see those instances of light, and honestly, that's where Roxas ends. Obviously, you have all throughout KH2, people are calling Sora Roxas. He has no idea why, and we have no idea why either. We're like, I mean, if you're a smart enough player, you figured out that Roxas is Sora's nobody, despite them not looking alike at all. But you can tell there's that connection there. But the reason that's the thing. Kingdom Hearts 2 is really the light sprinkling of Roxas. I don't like Roxas. If you just had me at Kingdom Hearts 2, I wouldn't like Roxas so much as a character. But he'd still be up there. He'd still be very much up there. But where we get into Roxas, the meaty character, is 358 Days Over 2. Now, the amazing thing about 358 Days Over 2 is where we actually see the full progressed narrative. We see Roxas being born, an empty soul, an empty slate. He has nothing but the ability to summon a Keyblade and slay Heartless. And seeing that, it's like, whoa, isn't this supposed to be like Sora's opposite, Sora's other half, the Sora that's more serious, more dark? But he's nothing. He's the purest, almost, yeah, I'd say outside of like blank slate Xion, Roxas at the start of that game is the purest nobody that we've ever seen given an actual like human visage. Because every other nobody had their memories, they had their past. Roxas had none of that. And the way that we see Roxas slowly grow into his own person through his interactions with Axel specifically, the way they slowly become friends and Roxas picks up mannerisms and a personality bit by bit, he starts building blocking himself. It's weird. It's like as we play 358 or as we watch 358, we see Roxas slowly pick together a personality, but it's so fragile, right? Because he's learning from people who don't have emotions. A person with no emotions and no past is learning about himself through people with a past but still no emotions. He's connecting certain things. He's connecting happiness to the clock tower. He's connecting friendship to Seesaw ice cream and sharing it. And those little connections he builds with every single organization member. They're very small, they're very quick, they're very fast, and sadly enough, they're not in the movie properly. I wish they were translated to the movie. I know that would have taken a whole ton of extra effort, but still, I wish we had seen more of those, because almost in every single way, you can say that an organization member fueled Roxas's personality. A lot of Roxas's speed, well, it's weird to note, but think about it. Larxene fed into Roxas's tendency to attack fast. Marluxia actually blended Roxas's ruthlessness. Axel really was the feed to Roxas's personality. Lexaeus was the brute force nature of Roxas. Almost every single organization member feeds into some part of Roxas, because he was literally a blank slate being painted on. He was an empty canvas being painted on by every single organization member that he interacted with. Every last thing. The light shields are likely based off Vex, and everything there comes from the organization. They made Roxas. So when the actual creation of the organization in Xion shows up, it's the canvas's turn to paint something else. And bit by bit, due to him having all these certain preconceived ideas and notions in his head, he's able to work with that. He's able to treat Xion like a person, despite what everyone else sees. Everyone else either doesn't see anything, or they see a girl with a hood on her head. And bit by bit, you can see Roxas slowly helping Xion learn, helping Xion grow, helping Xion become her own individual. But inherently, that wasn't meant to happen. In fact, Xion was meant to replace Roxas, or just be the backup. She wasn't meant to have a personality. She wasn't meant to be her own person. None of that was supposed to happen. But since it did happen, Roxas got connected. And since Roxas got connected, if those connections were to ever break, falter, or worst of all, disappear, he would be shattered. And that's exactly what happens. We can tell the end of 358 Days the moment we see Xion. We know Xion was never mentioned in Kingdom Hearts 2, and that's the only other time we've seen Roxas. So we know, off rip, we know Xion's gonna die, but Roxas doesn't know that, and we're tied into Roxas. So we are feeling every single struggle that Roxas feels when Axel and Xion start to break away from him for seemingly no reason. Like, remember, in the narrative, Roxas had no idea what was going on, really. Xion was having coma attacks, like she was literally just passing out for long periods of time. Axel disappeared all the way off to Castle Oblivion, and supposedly, according to what Roxas knew, Axel had perished, only for Axel to come back, but to be different. All these little things slowly build on top of one another to make Roxas, his little fragile foundation, shatter bit by bit, cracks and pieces being formed in it. But sadly, Roxas couldn't do anything about it. Roxas is one of the most powerful characters in the series, but he couldn't do a thing. Especially at that moment, he was one of the most powerful characters in the series, considering Sora was still knocked and Riku literally had to cheat. But he was one of the most powerful characters in the series, but he couldn't do anything to save his friends. Axel was going through crazy suffering because of what the organization wanted to do, and Xion was realizing that her existence was a detriment not only to Roxas, but also to Sora, but also to so many other people. and she felt guilty for that because of what Roxas lent to her. If Roxas didn't, it's weird to say imprint, but if Roxas didn't imprint his emotional ideas onto Shion, Shion would not have cared that Sora and Roxas were feeling anything. She would have just kept going as the organization's puppet. But since Roxas helped her in that sense, helped Shion become her own individual, because of that, it ended up biting back at him. He lost Shion. And honestly, one of the saddest moments in the entire series is when Roxas is forced to fight Shion to the death. Because Shion knows she has to disappear. She also knows Roxas will eventually have to disappear. But she doesn't want to go. She doesn't want him to go first. So they fight, and they fight. Meanwhile, Roxas is just breaking down, not understanding what in the world is going on. But he strikes her down. And then slowly, bit by bit, Shion just fades away. Not just physically, but mentally, since she wasn't supposed to exist in the first place. Even to a lesser degree than Shion was honestly worse than nobody's, because she wasn't supposed to exist at all. Like that's not a necessary part of the world or anything. And Roxas, in a scene that's once again mocked to no endless degree, but you gotta realize, like, the symbolism behind that scene is what makes it hit so hard for me to this day. Who will I have ice cream with? Who will I have ice cream with? That is Roxas's everything. That is the sea salt ice cream, as strange as it sounds, is the cornerstone to everything Roxas knows as happiness. Because it was sea salt ice cream that bonded him to Axel, and it was sea salt ice cream that bonded him to Shion, and every other organization member either didn't care about him or is gone. So all the aspects of his personality have slowly fallen apart. Everyone left an impact on Roxas. Shion left an impact. Axel left an impact. All the organization members left an impact. But now that impact has either disappeared in his own arms by means of his own doing, or has been ripped away from him in the sense of Axel, or never truly existed in the first place for the rest of the organization that remains. All of that is so crazy to think about, and it makes sense. The reason that Roxas wields Oathkeeper and Oblivion is because he promised he wouldn't forget her. And Shion fell to Oblivion. That symbolism for Keyblades, I have no doubt in my mind that no more thought none about this. But the fact that he gave those Keyblades specifically to Roxas, and the fact that Roxas did not start dual wielding until after Shion, his fellow Keyblade wielder, perished, likely because Roxas ended up accidentally, whether or not on purpose, absorbing her heart. That is crazy. That is so good. That's such great character writing. And then to have Roxas go on and just wash Riku, like it's portrayed as a more even fight, but the fact that these two do battle, and Roxas, without a doubt, would have won, but Riku, the other character who suffers, was forced to unleash the darkness within him to defeat Roxas, and then force him into a scenario that Roxas wanted no part in. Wow, that's a tragic story. For 358 days over 2, that's a tragic story. And if it ended there, Roxas would still be my favorite character, hands down. Roxas was my favorite character before Kingdom Hearts 3. I'll tell you that right here and right now. But what makes all of it worth it, all of it even better than what I've detailed up until this point, is that Roxas gets his redemption. When Roxas senses, like, the thing is, Roxas was residing in Sora the entire time. Roxas almost saved Sora from falling to darkness in 3D by giving Sora all his suffering. But since he couldn't do that, when Roxas sensed that Shion needed help, the person he helped create needed help, the person he cared about so much that it gave him a new Keyblade. When he sensed that she needed help, the fact that it is weird to think about, but he broke the laws of the universe to leave Sora's body, get a vessel, come back and absolutely slaughter those who wronged her. Wow. The way he comes back triumphant. When I'm telling you, I cried. I'm not gonna lie. When Roxas landed back and he just absolutely thrashes Saïx, I I don't know what you want from me. That was retribution. That was for every single wrong instituted upon him by the organization after all he did for them. That was such perfect retribution. And the way he fights alongside everyone towards the end, and the way he finally gets his happy ending. Like, sadly, Sora couldn't get it, but Roxas getting his happy ending, where he gets Xion, he gets Axel, he even gets Aiza or Saix, whatever. He gets them, and he gets the Twilight Town trio, who remember him in a sense, because they remember those artificial memories somehow. The fact that Roxas gets that after all he went through, that's great. That's great. Roxas is fantastic. Honestly, just as a multi-game narrative for a single character, that is beautiful. That is fantastic. I love it. Like, typically in these videos, I talk about things to improve. I can't improve anything. I'll be real. Just give him more screen time. Give Roxas more screen time. Let Roxas be a pivotal part in recovering Sora. That's it. That's all. Namor, that's all I asked for. I literally, that is peak Namor writing. Honestly, I'm saying it right here, right now. That is the best writing Namor's done for any character in Kingdom Hearts, and I can hear you Riku fans out there coming from my neck. Don't worry, I'm going to talk about him too. But, yeah, wow. Please. I don't even, like, in the comments below, just tell me what you think about Roxas. Tell me what you think about Roxas. If you can think of something to improve about Roxas, tell me. Because I've reflected, I've been like, wow, like, this is just, it's so beautiful. That's the thing. I love the character writing that went into Roxas. I think it's fantastic. If you guys have anything to say about Roxas, please drop it in the comment section down below. I need to see my Kingdom Hearts fans out there. I know y'all are down there. Please say something. I want to hear it. Wow. That's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with a Pencil, writing off.